What happens when you pair the best budget and beginner-friendly camera alongside the world's best budget and beginner-friendly lenses? Well, you get the world's best camera setup for beginner content creators. So I've had the EOS R50 for about a year now, and geez, it's been exactly a year since I started taking YouTube seriously, and what a journey it's been. But that's a topic for another day. Today we're talking about this bad boy. And full disclaimer, this isn't meant to be like a full-on technical review about the camera. In this video, I'll only specifically be talking about my experience with it after about a year of ownership, what I like and what I don't like. And no, this video is not sponsored by Canon or anybody else. We are nowhere near that level. But speaking of, if you like this video, remember to click that like button and subscribe to the channel so we can get to the levels where we can get sponsored by Canon, right? But yeah, for now, this is going to be my full honest review on the Canon EOS R50. Let's go. So first off, let's start with the elephant in the room. This camera costs less than $700. Less than $700. And what you get with this camera for that price is just absolutely crazy. I mean, we get 4K downsampled from 6K, which is just overkill for YouTube. The picture quality you get with this is just incredible, especially considering the price point. I mean, we get really sharp and detailed footage, and we even get this. I mean, the autofocus technology in every Canon is just amazing, but to have it in a camera that costs $700 is just really difficult to believe. Now, just a quick caveat, this camera is amazing on its own, but when you pair it with an RF 50mm lens, we're able to get shots like this. And here's a comparison with the lens, the default lens that actually comes with the camera. And the low light capabilities of this camera is really incredible. When you pair it alongside this lens, it's just bonkers, right? With this combination, I've done some personal stuff, I've done a lot of YouTube stuff, and a lot more of client stuff. And yes, you heard me right, I've done a lot of client work with this combination as my main camera. And all that is great, right? But I'll tell you right now, the biggest reason I've loved this camera over the past year is literally the fact that it doesn't need you to have deep knowledge of cameras. When I got started, I literally knew nothing about cameras. I didn't go to film school. I literally just, decided to start. And this camera, literally, it just allows you to tap a button and it does everything for you. There's some really cool filters that you can use within the camera, although I hardly ever use them. I just shoot as is, and whatever I need to do, I'll probably do it in Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. But with all that good stuff, there are some stuff about this camera that I don't really like, and I think this is the part of the video that will tell you if this camera is for you or not, right? So firstly, starting off with the record limit. If you don't know, this camera has a record limit of about, I think, an hour. I've personally never had to shoot an hour-long, continuous piece of footage. But if, say, you run a podcast or you run a long-form YouTube channel, it might not necessarily be for you unless you are willing to get through some hacks. So for example, there's been multiple times where I've had to get footage of an entire sermon, and what you can do is just literally plug the camera onto my laptop, and from that point it basically operates as a sort of webcam where it will use the feed from the camera and record it onto OBS. From that point, there is no record limit. You're solely dependent on your battery life. I think the battery on this lasts 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I've never really sat down and counted how long it lasts, but I think it should be about 2 hours. I always carry a spare battery, so literally if you have a spare battery along with the one that comes with this camera, you should be good for whatever shoot. The second thing I don't like about this camera is, and this is actually the biggest thing I don't like about it, it overheats a lot, especially at 4K. Depending on weather conditions, you might get between 20 to an hour before it starts overheating. Again, you don't have this problem when you're shooting at 1080. So yeah, that's a really major thing. If you want to get the longest possible time out of this camera, you have to shoot in conditions that are a little bit cooler. And even then, I mean, as we speak right now, it's about to overheat. And I think I've only been shooting for a couple of minutes, less than 20 minutes. So you can see here, once this bar like reaches all the way through, you can see it's on 1, 2, 3, about 5 bars. Once it goes all the way through, yeah, it's gonna go off automatically and give you an overheating warning. So yeah, not very ideal if you need over 30 minutes of continuous 4K footage. You can absolutely go crazy with 1080p and shoot for as long as you want. The battery life is amazing on that. It doesn't overheat at all. But yeah, when it comes to 4K, might not necessarily be for you if you're shooting a podcast at 4K throughout the entire show. Thirdly, as amazing as this lens is, it doesn't have any zoom capability. Meaning you always have to adjust the distance between yourself and the subject depending on what type of shot you want. You can't just stand in one place and just adjust the zoom, right? So for example, if I want to get a much wider shot, I would have to move this tripod much further back. And as you saw earlier on, there's literally a door right behind where I've placed it. So yeah, I couldn't get a much wider shot of this place even if I wanted to. So after hearing the good things I like about this camera and the bad things I hate about this camera, it's time to answer the question, who is this camera for? Everybody. After using this camera for both client work and my own personal YouTube work, I can tell you right now, the much easier question to answer is, who is this camera not for? And the only thing I can think of is, well, podcasters, right? A podcast is the only video format where you have to shoot long form continuous footage. And assuming you want your footage to be in 4K, this camera cannot give you that. Everything else, from vlogging to sit down videos like this one to entertainment videos, it doesn't matter. Client work, it doesn't matter. This camera will always come through and deliver for you. At least it has for me over the past year, especially as someone who came into the game not knowing much about cameras, not knowing much about the game, and to now where I've accumulated over 200,000 views on YouTube. We've made tons of money with client work. All that was done with this camera. I'm definitely looking forward to adding more cameras to the collection over the year 2026. Currently, I'm still at odds between the FX30 and the R5. But yeah, I don't know, we'll see. But as for the R50, it's brought me such a long way from where I started. And yeah, if you're starting out, I highly recommend getting this camera. I'll leave links to both the R50 and the RF 50mm lens down in the description. But look, video is only one half of what captivates people when watching any one of your videos. The other half is sound. At the very least, I knew that much when I first got started, so I went ahead and got the Rode Wireless Go 2, which has been amazing in terms of my content. Again, both my client work and my YouTube work. Made a review on them as well. You can check it out on here. I'll see you there. Peace.